see, I can't lose. No reality will I lose. Ever. Today is Wednesday, June 17th, day 168 of the 100 push-up, 100 squat progressive challenge for a year. We're in the month of June, more than halfway through the month of June. So we're finishing off 150 push-ups, 150 squat every single day for this month. You can't do this. Even if you wanted to do this, you would fail. I can do this though. Let's go.
We discussed Law 6 of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, court attention at all costs, in the TV show The Wire. Greene goes on to further this idea by saying not to differentiate between good and bad attention because they will both bring you power. However, there are times, especially in the underworld, when it's not good court attention and this is addressed in the book. For example, when in the presence of the king or queen and doing so may get you into trouble, similar to how the viewers wouldn't want to do it right in front of cops. Or when in a large crowd and doing so may bring social shame, similar to how they were worried that the corner kids would make them look bad in the steakhouse.
You took them to a restaurant.
Yeah. Who's Chris?
Lynn napkin.
You know, silverware, more than one fork.
Did they embarrass us?
Yeah, you know, bitch. There is a law. It's a limit.
But for the most part, according to Greene, these principles hold true. So in this episode, we will evaluate Law 6 in The Wire by first taking a look at how the drug crews use a tactic similar to P.T. Barnum's to actually turn a profit when being caught in a scam, before moving on to how you should court controversy because any attention brings power, as shown through the newspaper and Jimmy McNulty. Then we will move on to possibly the best example of Law 6 in The Wire, Clay Davis, specifically how he rainmade Stringer Bell, but also how he could potentially provide an example of how it can be taken too far, and then ending with how the attention strategy should be used depending on where in the hierarchy accordingly. Of course, leaving Tony Gray to split the black vote played a part, but letting Gray break the news about the detectives being switched also served another purpose. According to Greene, once the attention has been gained through that method, it gets old quickly, which is a concept Carcetti understood.
Why get it done? Why not just get divorced yourself?
Because after what time we did at this debate, it seemed like more of the same as it comes from different.
Eventually, Carcetti wins, and we see one of the biggest powers of mystery when he meets up with Clay Davis.
Apologizes for the short con, and in the next breath sends us up to the law. He and Morella stick his deeds.
And do we know what the long con is?
At least we know he's running one.
It automatically puts others in the inferior position of having to figure you out. All of the time spent trying to figure out what he is up to and going down different countless pointless rabbit holes is time that he has to plan out his next con. Well, thanks for watching this episode here on Bully Whispers. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next score. Anyways, this is where we get to the part in which we evaluate Greene's statement that powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. However, there are 2 points that need to be made before we move forward. First, all of them can and will kill you, which is significant because it means that their respective levels of intimidation aren't based on a perceived potential for a different outcome. This is also the reason I didn't include the up-and-coming 8th graders like Michael Lee, Naaman, and Randy in this comparison, even though I had initially planned to. Since we know Michael is the only one of the 3 who will actually do anything, it doesn't really matter if he's chatty like he's been going line for line with Tony Montana all night, he is still going to be the most intimidating. And second, there is a difference between being intimidating in the moment and having an intimidating aura surrounding you and your name in general. A good example of this is when Bunny Colvin takes the man from academia into the interrogation room to show him that 18 to 21-year-olds are too old and that he should look to help younger kids. At this point, it would be fair for you to ask, who would want to be stuck in there with? And as much as you should always be suspicious of somebody who answers a question with a question, my response would be, well, would you rather be in there with someone like Chris Partlow? Now, while being on the more expressive side doesn't necessarily make you less intimidating, it also doesn't necessarily add the level of intimidation to your loyal than a friend because he has one too.
But now, nigga,
That was for Joe.
In fact, you have more to fear from friends than from enemies.
Shit, partner.
If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode here on Bully Whispers, and we're here today to evaluate law number 2 of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power in the series The Wire. Never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. Now, obviously you always have enemies while rarely having friends in both crime and politics, and I do know that cheese is family, not friend, but the principles behind the law run rampant through the series. So in this episode, we will examine Law 2 in The Wire primarily through Prop Joe's relationship with Cheese, although Michael Lee and Naaman will make appearances, by comparing them and their actions with the historical examples and reasoning given, as well as how Clarketti used Mao Zedong, of all people's political strategies to take the election. The book starts with someone who violated the law in Byzantine Emperor Michael III, but we'll get to him in a bit. Instead, we will start with someone who followed it in Emperor Sung of China, since one of Prop Joe's key strategies mirrored Sung's in his securing of power. For centuries after the fall of the Han Dynasty, China had nothing but coups happening one after the other. The army would take over, a general would become emperor and kill all the other generals, and a few years later it would happen again. So when Emperor Sung took the throne, he decided to do something different. Rather than kill all the generals like everyone else, he let them retire in luxury with all of the entertainment and women they desired. While Prop Joe could never really offer retirement,